What's up guys, it's Naf here. So as some of you may know, I've recently started killing Araxi and I found myself running out of Saradomin brews. With that in mind, I've recently looted my kingdom as well a few weeks back, so I'm not able to rely on that for crushed birds' nests as I have in the past. So there weren't many options out there, most of them involved high-end bossing or lower level bosses with inconsistent drop rates, such as Criera who drops birds' nests, or Commander Ziliana who drops noted brews. But there was one boss which was both farmable and it had a consistent drop rate of what could become Saradomin brews. That's right, I'm talking about the giant mole. Now I decided to do this boss on hard mode simply to make it more interesting and giving it better loot, also with a higher chance of the pet. Unfortunately, the difficulty doesn't impact the number of mole claws or skins you get, and therefore it doesn't impact the amount of brews you can get. So just going over the giant mole fight in hard mode, I was actually pretty surprised with how easy it was. Now in saying that, my gear is relatively high level, but from guides I looked at, they really made it seem like the mechanics were challenging even with higher tier setups. Even after getting my first kill on hard mode, I needed to check that I didn't enter a normal instance because I couldn't believe how easy it was. For those who have never done this boss, essentially as it loses health, it will burrow underground and transition to each of the 5 areas. Each of the 4 other areas it will transition to poses a different mechanic, and after facing the giant mole in each of these rooms, she transitions back to the original area where she will have all 4 mechanics from each room, which she will randomly use until she dies. Now there's more or less only one mechanic that's threatening, where you're turned into stone and she will do a powerful melee attack breaking you out and often doing around 2500 damage. Now this is pretty easy to mitigate by protecting melee and using devotion before you're transformed into stone. Failing to do this, especially in the final phase where she can combo her abilities, can result in you taking a few thousand damage very quickly. Despite this, I never actually had issues dying, with having things like Soul Split making the overall fight very easy. Other than that, one thing I found really helpful was comboing Bone Crusher with the Demon Horn necklace due to one of the phases spawning minions, with small moles also being spread out throughout the whole area. It was relatively easy to always be using prayers without the use of a penance aura or even prayer potions, and anyone doing this, I would recommend using a similar setup and just killing a few moles passively as you're running from room to room. Also having a familiar such as a terror bird will actually kill the moles for you, which attack you whilst you're running around, also giving you prayer points. So in terms of the loot, unfortunately over 500 kills, I didn't get the pet, which was obviously disappointing. Although I can't say I would use the pet, I just wanted the bossing title from getting all of her unique drops, which is of the underground. I did also notice there are a number of drops listed on the RuneScape wiki for hard mode Giant Mole, which I never actually got whilst killing this boss, despite them being listed as common, such as noted grapes, uncut diamonds, and coal. Now I don't know whether this is just incorrect information, or if you need to complete something like Falador tasks to expand her loot table, but regardless, I thought this was interesting nonetheless. So looking at the overall loot, as you can see there really isn't much variety, although the majority of the supplies are useful materials outside of the iron ore, so I'm sure I will use most of it. In terms of her unique drops, she did drop a lot of everything outside of the pet. First off, we have the Ultra Growth Potions in both 1 and 2 dose. The 2 dose was just me simply adding the 1 doses together if I was getting them on the same trip. These help you with farming by allowing you to skip 2 stages of a tree's growth, meaning it will be fully grown sooner, so I guess this will help me with leveling farming, although you can only use it once per tree. Next, we have the Clingy Mole. Now I honestly will never use these. Essentially, you can attach one to an anti-fire shield, upgrading it to a tier 55 shield with 500 charges that further reduces fire damage. But considering I use super anti-fire potions, I think this will just be another thing for the loot tab. Next we have the Numbing Root. This is a consumable that can remove damage over time effects. Now I don't actually know a practical use for these outside of PvP, as the wiki suggests it can't be used at Virago or Araxor, so if you guys know any practical use for these, I'd love to hear it. Next we have the 5 Dragon 2-handers, so another rare but junky item for the loot tab. Although before this I never had any of these before on my Ironman, so I guess that's something. And lastly, the main reason behind killing the giant mole, we have the mole claws and mole skins. So as I said, whether you kill her on hard mode or normal, She only gives 1 claw and 3 skins per kill, but nonetheless, this should give me a decent amount of bird's nests, which hopefully will result in some decent seeds for farming and crushed nests for brews. Unfortunately, this can't be handed in as noted items, so I will need to run back and forward to hand all these in, but obviously I can just skip to when that's already done. So there we go, that's my 500 mole claws handed in, so a pretty decent ratio of bird's nests with seeds to bird's nests with nothing at all in it. Okay, so that's the last of the mole skins as well, so that should be 1500 bird's nests right there. So similar to the mole claws, it is about a 1 in 10 ratio of getting bird's nests with seeds in comparison to just an empty bird's nest. So putting that together, I've got quite a few bird's nests to open. So what I've gone ahead and done as well is put all of my tree seeds into pots, because I do want to track some of the higher level seeds like Magic and You, and some of the other ones I believe like Maple, but I'm not that interested in the herb seeds. I don't really care about them, but in terms of the fruit ones, all of them have been used, so if I do get any, it will be popping up in my top tab and it will be very easy to track. But other than that, I've just got to go ahead and open up all these bird's nests now. Okay, there we go. So that's the last of the bird's nests with seeds. So taking a look, I do have the 2000 nests I now need to crush, but looking at the seeds specifically, as I said, I wasn't tracking any of the herb ones. It was just a bit too difficult, but the tree ones were very easy too. So that's the order of from the lowest level to the highest level: acorns, which do basic trees or oak trees, I believe. I'm pretty sure they do oak, willow, maple, yew, and magic. So I didn't expect to get many magic at all. I believe it's on the lower end of about 0.3% chance of getting them. So the fact I got 3, that's was expected, but I'm pretty surprised with how many yews I got. 19, that's pretty good. Even for my level 79 farming, those will still be pretty useful. And eventually I'll probably use the maples as well, although I don't see myself ever using the willows. So that's it now for the seeds. Now I have to crush all these and turn them into Saradomin brews. Now luckily I do have nearly 2000 toadflax unfinished potions already to go. Those were mainly from looting herbs from my kingdom and also dark beasts. So luckily I had them on hand, so I will now go ahead and crush all these and see how many Saradomin brews I end up with. Okay, and here we go. I'm finally finishing up making these Saradomin brews. I did also hit 97 herb lore, which is pretty cool, but I don't see myself getting 99 anytime soon just because I really don't have many more herb lore supplies left. But regardless, so taking a look at it, I was able to make 1996 Saradomin brews, with plenty of crushed nests left over from the dungeoneering scroll I have that saves secondary herb lore supplies. I don't remember the name right now, but regardless, that's handy to have in the future if I do come across more toadflax. So there we go, along with the Saradomin brews, all the seeds, and of course there's all those extra seeds which were for herbs and flowers and such which aren't included. But just as a rough generalization, here you have the loot from 500 hard mode giant mole kills. So that's pretty much it for this one. It's a shame I didn't get the of the underground title. I may do some giant mole in the future to attempt to get the pet, just because I do really want that title. But other than that, definitely give mole a go if you do need Saradomin brews. This did take me roughly 25 hours, so that does average out to about 80 Saradomin brews per hour of killing giant mole. And that's also considering I was killing hard mode giant mole, which naturally took a little longer than if I was doing standard. So I'm sure if you're doing standard giant mole, you could maybe get upwards of 90 to 100 Saradomin brews an hour. Naturally, that doesn't include the time it takes to get toadflax, but if you do find yourself doing a lot of Slayer, killing dark beasts, and looting herbs from your kingdom, you may find you have a lot of toadflax lying around, so definitely consider some giant mole if you do need Saradomin brews. But that is it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.